Okay. Okay. Welcome to our nonprofit leaders, and please add a comment below to let us know you're here. Just say, I'm here. I'm Nancy Manning, founder of Austin Nonprofit Meetup and Power Your Mission. Our guest today is going to be sharing the screen for PowerPoint. So remember, you've got to actually click on the screen to expand it so you can see, all right? And speaking of our guest today is Rae Martinez, Texas Rising Senior Director of Texas Freedom Network. Welcome, Rae. Your title sounds like a big job. Can you tell us a bit about what you do?
Sure. So the Texas Freedom Network was started in 1995 by Cecil Richards in a reaction to seeing a growing far-right religious kind of political power being built in the state of Texas. Cecile sat in on a state board of education meeting where they were talking about sex ed and adopting new standards for sex ed, and found that what was happening at the State Board of Education was really terrible, and that there were a lot of folks that advocating for things that young people need to learn in order to be safe and healthy young people when they're growing up. So Cecil Richards started the Texas Freedom Network. We've been around for a long time, and about maybe 15 to 16 years ago, the Texas Rising program was started by our now executive director, Val Benavides. Texas Rising works with young people ages 18 or 30 to build political power in the state among young people. We do a lot of great organizing work on college campuses and in community and statewide, advocating for progressive policies and making sure that young people are registered to vote and are voting. My role in the Texas Rising is Texas Rising Senior Director, as you said. I manage the entire program, have really grown the program from when I came into this position. 2 organizers. We had 2 organizers for the state. We now have 8 organizers, soon to be hopefully looking to add more this year. 8 full-time regional field coordinators who are organizers in each region, and a large part-time paid staff who are doing this day in and day out voter registration and building student chapter teams on campuses.
Yeah, it is a big job. How many campuses do you work with?
We work on over 20 campuses across the state. We're on all of the major cities and in some of the rural communities.
It's impressive. It's impressive. So listen, I'm anxious to see and hear about your magic advocacy triangle. Can you share that with us?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen. All right, here we go. So this is kind of how we view how to build power in the state of Texas, how to build organizing power. And this is really important when we talk about advocacy, because we have to understand that it's in order to build an effective force for values that your community cares about at either the state legislature or in a local, at your city council or your county commissioners courts. What needs to happen is there needs to be a step taken back to really invest in the community that you're building power among, and making sure that you're training them and walking them through all steps of the organizing cycle. So this is the Repower organizing triangle that we implement before we even go into the public policy advocacy. You see, it's a part of that, and I'll use it as a way to build power, or we use it as a way to build power in the state. So we start by community organizing. This is building relationships with people on the ground, talking to people, having one-on-ones, understanding what the community that you're working in cares about. For us, it's young people under 30. So working with young people, making sure that we're connecting, we're educating young people and listening to young people and incorporating that into our organizing. Then we move into electoral politics. Or electoral organizing, and that's where we do all of our voter registration, all of our GOTV and voter education efforts in order to build power in the state. We need to make sure that all of our folks can vote, can know about voting, know about what that means, and know when and where and how to vote. And in more recent instances for Texas Rising, we have also adopted an endorsement process where our chapters across the state are making their own decisions about who they want to endorse, and then doing GOTV work, or sorry, get out the vote work for those individuals. So this then leads into our public policy advocacy. So after we've built relationships with people on the ground, we've registered people to vote and talked to them about voting. Then we go and we hold legislators at every step of any area of governance. We hold those folks accountable to what they promised or didn't promise during an election season. This is where we advocate for the issues that matter most to our communities, and make sure that we're having big advocacy days where we've got a slate of issues that we're advocating for, and we're drawing attention to the media on these issues, and then also having meetings with legislators and bringing our community to that place, and letting them share their stories about how public policy is affecting their lives. We do all types of advocacy around in this public policy advocacy area. Ranges from having an advocacy day to having in-district meetings with legislators, which everybody has a legislator that lives in their region, and that they can go and visit. They all have district offices, and you can go and talk to their staff or them there. So it looks like those pieces, and these are all held together every step of the way when we're building power in our communities. It's all held together by leadership development. So not only are we asking young people to come and do this with us, we are also making sure that young people have the tools that they need to lead at every step of the way in each of these different sections. So they're building relationships with their peers on a college campus. They are registering voters and training others how to do it, and being a leader, making those endorsements, making decisions for their own community. And then public policy advocacy. They're the ones who are having these meetings with legislators at the forefront of our big visibility events that we have to garner attention to the issue and attention to a group of people that is trying to get their values communicated. So at every step of the way, it's important to build in leadership development, and make sure that folks are getting that experience on the ground. This is the how we build power. This is how we can have 100 people at an advocacy day, 100 people meeting with their legislators. This is how we have big rallies when we mobilize against voter suppression bills that may come up in the state legislature. So this is a little bit about our organizing triangle that helps us build power in the state.
I'm sick, so everything I'm doing takes twice as long today. Just trying to get my video back on. There I am. Okay. So, I came up with like 100 questions, but I only wrote down one. You're a fast talker too, and so let me try to, first of all, I'm very excited that we're talking about young people, because I'm an old lady that needs a lot of hope, and you people are giving it to me. You young people that are this actively involved is very exciting for me. So this picture is huge to me. You do separate types of training. I heard you talk about advocacy days, talking to legislators, leadership development. Are there separate types of training you do for groups of these young people?
Yes. And actually, this flags a good thing for me. I wanted to make sure to go over the steps for how you build an effective advocacy day. So I can give you a snapshot of the kinds of trainings that we have, and then how we activate, how we build for that day. So So it's very important during those trainings, training is very important for days when you're having meetings with legislators or meetings with city council members or whoever you're meeting with. The part of the training that is most important, or all pieces of the training are important, but we really make sure to develop folks' personal stories when we go to the Capitol. It's important that when we're bringing our community to the Capitol, that they're connecting with their legislators on a very personal way, talking about how these bills affect their lives or affect people around them and how they're going to be living their lives. So it's very important to develop that personal story with the folks that are coming up and training with you. And then teaching folks how to have an effective meeting with the legislator, which includes, sharing that personal story and then making an ask of that legislator at the end to support or come out against whatever bills that we're advocating for or against. So that how to have a meeting with the legislator is also really important, and practicing that with their peers, so that you get into the groove and you're prepared for when you actually have that meeting with the legislator. It's also important that we're informing our folks about what is actually happening. And typically our folks, when they come in, they have some idea of like, okay, we're here, we're going to advocate for more access to voting. We're going to advocate for LGBTQ equality. We're going to activate for criminal justice reform, whatever that may be. They know upon coming to the Advocacy Day what the organization stands for and what they're going to be advocating for. And then, but then we need to dive deeper into those bills and talk about, what those bills are, how they may hurt or benefit a community. And then folks are really equipped with all of that information, and they're ready then to go and have that conversation with their legislator. In order to build for an Advocacy Day, there's a lot of that community organizing and that electoral organizing that you just did in like a couple of months ago, and you're continuing to do, helps funnel folks into the advocacy. So then you're able to, set a date for an Advocacy Day. You're able to engage with your base. You recruit your people who you've been talking to this entire time to that Advocacy Day. And then you do other things like you promote it digitally, distribute it to partners, make sure your partners know what's happening, and they can join if they'd like to. You have text links maybe to a list of folks that you've been recruiting over time, and you let them know via text, like, hey, we're doing this thing. Can you come with us? And can you join us? We want to advocate for these issues. And then another key aspect is providing assistance for those who might need it. Our Advocacy Days are typically all inclusive, so we make sure we pay for travel and hotel stays if we're staying there for over a 2-day period, and food for our folks, because we know that young people, particularly it's really helpful to have that assistance to come to the Capitol and advocate. So we make sure that's not a barrier to folks for advocating for issues. Everybody should be able to access their Capitol and have a route to it. So I think assistance is also really helpful when you're building for an Advocacy Day. And then during that Advocacy Day, after you've confirmed everybody who said that they were going to go, you called them up, you're like, hey, are you still planning on coming? Okay, great. Then you proceed into the actual planning for the day. You make sure that, and this is our formula for Advocacy Days, but we have a training in the morning that usually lasts somewhere between 2 to 3 hours. We have a lunch with everybody, where people get to be in community with each other. We have a visibility action that's to make sure that folks know that this is happening, that 100 young people have come to the Capitol and they're not happy about, the voter suppression laws that are getting authored at the Capitol, right? So we have a visibility event so that folks know what young people care about, and that can be communicated to the rest of Texas. And then we hop into those meetings with their legislators. That typically ranges anywhere between 3 to 4 hours. It's the last half of the day where folks go in groups and have meetings with those legislators and advocate for whatever bills that they chose from within our slate of bills that we're organizing for or against.
Well,
So
thank you, Rae. You know what? This just whipped on by. We're already at the end of our time. I just want to point out one thing that Rae mentioned about teaching these young people how to make the ask too. I think is a critical part of nonprofit work, and teaching them at such a young age to tell their stories and make the asks. We could go on, literally. But I do like to stay mindful of people's time. We have a few people here today, and we commit to the 15 minutes. It's never enough time. We really appreciate what you did for us today, Rae. I would like to remind people about the meetup on Thursday. How to advance your mission through advocacy by our very impressive speakers from the National Council of Nonprofits, Planned Parenthood Texas Votes, and the League of Women Voters. So folks, join us on Thursday by registering today before 4. And thank you, Rae. That was really phenomenal. Thank you for what you do, and keep doing it. Don't lose that great energy.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for inviting me to this talk.
You bet. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.